Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this very special Supercut episode. If you're not familiar with these, what we're trying to do is a 10-minute clip of the full episode so that you can get the greatest nuggets of what the guests shared. If you like this, please leave a like in the comments below and you can give us some feedback. The goal of these is to deliver the best of the episode to you, and you will always be able to find the full episode linked at the end of the Supercut. Let's get right to it. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Laid Off Legends podcast. I am delighted to host another episode today with another special guest. Steve, welcome to the Laid Off Legends podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's so
Really
great to
excited to be
have you.
here.
Steve is a dynamic and results-driven HR professional with over a decade of expertise in organizational and leadership development. His journey has taken him through some of the largest companies in the world, notably Intel for almost 13 years and now Accenture. Okay, so let's ground ourselves. So what is learning and development design?
It's the ability to create educational programs or training experiences and development opportunities to meet business needs. It has to do with the ability to analyze what the needs are and to be able to translate those needs into something that's feasible for employees, for them to be able to grow into the next career levels.
So it sounds like your primary role is to look at the need that the company has and then try and match that. Does our company have the skill set to actually move forward and accomplish those objectives?
That is correct. We help companies translate those needs into something that they can actually execute for them to be able to take people to the next level.
Can you help us understand that link between the organizational and the personal? Do the same principles apply?
Yeah, they do. It's an interesting game between the what and the how. It's trying to understand what is needed and how we're going to get there. We need to understand what is it that we want to do or what is it that we need to learn for us to be able to get to that how.
How does the organization start to set that vision? Where does that come from?
That goes in different levels, whether if it's a market trend that will define it, how is the business moving? How is the business behaving? So that we understand what is it that we need to move into that space. That's when we're going to say, okay, so in 6 years, we need to be here. Let's study the needs for us to be able to define that how. And to us, to in an individual level, like where do I want to be in 10 years? It takes a brief study of the skills or what the business is offering right now. So I better start preparing right now.
How do we squeeze out some of these organizational practices and apply them in our individual journey so that we can be prepared for what's to come?
I think it has to do with our ability to stay up to date with what we're seeing in the business and what's needed towards that. One of the things that I always tell people is have you investigate more of how your role is going to transform in the next 10 years. With the introduction of generative AI and all of the technology that we have today, it's how is my role going to transform in 10 years? And then start preparing for that. You cannot wait. Corporations don't prepare that way. They prepare ahead.
There was one nugget you mentioned, which was one, decide where you want to go. And then two, there's an inventory that you need to do on your role and your discipline. What is this going to look like in the next 5, 10 years?
We're speaking very corporate specific, but if there's an entrepreneur here, how my business could transform in 10 years for me to adapt to what the business is requiring for me as an entrepreneur.
One of the interesting things about a layoff is that it stops short. It's not a dead end, but you were driving and suddenly you're not able to move forward.
Mhm.
And to use a very common driving analogy, you now have to, okay, where's my map? Do you have any thoughts on how folks, when they arrive at that moment, wow, I'm laid off, how do they start to think about this intentional destination setting or this skill gap that we've been talking about?
One of my mentors once said, the best time to look for a job is when you don't need one. A layoff is a very unexpected thing. My recommendation is prior to creating any map, pause for a second to breathe and define what is it that I want to do next. The next big step is what is it that I have that I mastered versus what am I lacking on the market, and then compare those two. Find that little point and say, what would it take for me to get to that next level that the market is requiring? If you would like to take a completely different route, what is it that the market is requiring for that step that I want? And how am I going to get there? Now, the next step you have to take on that is study the skills and the requisitions. How is that translating into my resume, and how can I make a match in there?
After a layoff, you have to do this yourself. You're really pushed away from the planned pathway into something that has to be highly individual, highly personalized, highly driven by who you are and what
Mhm.
you want to do. Do you have any thoughts around making that mindset shift?
It's about what skills you have, and that doesn't define you as a person. And I think that's really important because that plays with your self-esteem. Now, how we prepare for that mentally, it's what's really important. Go outside, read, investigate for you to be able to identify what is it that's needed from me. And how do I learn that is what's also important. Layoffs are very difficult. And this is why it's very important to pause and breathe and say, what do I want to do next? And then when you define that with peace of mind, then you can start doing those steps.
Are there any pitfalls that you've seen as people have tried to develop this framework that they should avoid?
Don't think of it as a straight line. It's a mountain and it has ups and downs. And don't be afraid of changing when you're learning through this. And the same happens in the work environment. The other thing is, I think in the theory of development, there's three circles: the academia, which is what we study, the passion, and the actual job that we have. Always think about trying to connect those three circles as much as possible. What drives my passion? What is it that I enjoy doing? And try to go for that. You're going to be doing this for 8 hours a day, every day. So you might as well just find that point where you're enjoying what you're.
Sounds like something everybody should be doing, whether you're laid off or not.
Yeah, even in the corporate level, a lot of people fall in that space of I'm very comfortable with my job.
How do you introduce discomfort into your journey so that you're always aware of where you are and the skills you need to build?
I call it the spark. It's that thing that you say, I wake up every morning, I like what I do. I feel driven by this. My personal story goes into my line. I loved my job, but I was very comfortable to the point that I was letting the corporation dictate what I wanted. Don't let a corporation dictate where you're going to be just because they're doing a reorg or doing whatever they're doing. You have to define what is it that you want to do and be brave enough to take the next step. Layoffs surprise you in a way that nobody are expecting those things, right? What am I going to do? Okay, pause for a second. Don't panic. You're going to be okay. Breathe in, breathe out, and define what are those passions.
What other behaviors have you observed that people are too comfortable?
When you become computerized at your job, are you really enjoying your job? Or you're just doing your job? When you start doing the job, there's a lot of detail orientation. I want to be on top of everything. I want to learn. Don't ever lose that. When you get comfortable on a job, then it's just that every day, every day. Are you learning something new? I also think about how people lose. I don't want to call it interest, but it's just like, I don't care. Those things are red flags. Pay attention to those things.
What are some of the ways that people can remain hungry?
It has to do with the transformation. How do I transform this into the next level? Generative AI, it's now drenching everything. And people are panicking about what if my role is going to disappear? So think about, how do I create value over generative AI? How do I become more efficient? How do I take this to the next level? You need to have that hunger for learning and say, I need to learn more about this. I need to take this to the next level.
What are some of the soft skills today that you are looking at?
Strategic thinking would be the first one. I think we're moving more into the space of strategically creating things versus doing things. Number two, it has to do with your ability of adapt. Be agile. We need to transform every day because this is how the environment is working. Influencing. How do we create a personal brand that can be sold? It has to do with how do we communicate? How do we tell the story? But those three things are crucial right now. It's how do we strategically think? How do we become more agile and adaptable? And how do we influence more so that we can, keep moving?
No.
Breathe. Everything is going to be okay. The world is changing and we are changing with the world. But just keep in mind that you are the owner of your future and that you can transform the future in any way you want. So own that and move forward. Stop waiting for the moment. Prepare yourself. Learn about the things that you want to learn. Prepare for the future. Don't wait for the moment. Always be prepared.
Thank you so much for those words. We're doing this so that folks can find inspiration, encouragement, and be able to connect the dots between this layoff experience and where they want to go. Until next time, thank you all and have a great day. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this Supercut episode. The link to the full episode is up above that you can find. Please leave a like and share your comments and feedback on this particular episode. If there are topics you'd like to see and other comments or speakers that you'd like to hear from, please drop it in and let us know. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.